I call to order for the city of Petoskey, the city council for January 23rd, 2023. Please rise with me for the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Beck, would you call a roll?
Demore. Present. Shields.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Walker is absent. Murphy.
Present. Next, we have a real honorable thing to happen here. Mark, would you please step up here? Kendall, why don't you come up too and we'll. Okay. Yeah, you can read there. This is employee recognition. Whereas Mark Lehman, City of Petoskey Parks and Rec, Special Facilities Supervisor, will officially retire on January 31st, 2023, after 35 years of outstanding and meritorious services to the residents of the City of Petoskey. Whereas Mark has been instrumental in the vision and standards of the park system, and whereas also the Petoskey Marina and Magnus Park, as well as, of course, the Winter Sports Park, where all of us know you from. And whereas Mark is a consistent positive influence and resource for staff and peers, and was a tireless proponent of the city parks and recreation programs. Therefore, after his 35 years of service, Mark has been a dedicated servant to the residents of Petoskey, setting an example to his peers and those throughout the state. Now, thereby, I, John Murphy, Mayor of Petoskey, on behalf of the City Council, the staff, and all the citizens of Petoskey, take this opportunity to express our sincere and grateful appreciation and thereby extend to you, Mark, our congratulations on a well-earned retirement and our best wishes to you for continued success, happiness, good health, and many years to come. This is the 23rd of January. Congratulations.
We came to the park on Clement Avenue.
Kendall now has something he'd like to add for us as well.
I'm going to interview.
I'm going to introduce Dave Krusky. Dave has requested a few minutes. Dave works with Mark has for a long time, and Dave expressed a desire to come publicly congratulate Mark.
He hates us, of course.
Yeah.
He deserves it. Well, the master plan has finally come all the way around. Mark is going to retire. He's got like 30 chickens, so he's been waiting for egg prices to rise. It's all come to fruition. He can go now. He's actually going to make more money now selling eggs. So 35 years. 1988 is when he started. I was going to do one of those cool things. You look back at what movies were popular and whatever else. I guess it was 91 cents a gallon, FYI. So there's that. Some of the top songs at that time were by George Michael, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, and George Harrison. There's a common theme there. I had to explain it to my daughter. There's a little bit of a dark theme there, but anyways, 35 years is a long time. So whoops, that's gonna fall. We probably all waited a little less, maybe had a little more, but a lot of laughs, a lot of memories in that time. 35 years of serving everyone in the city of Petoskey, of the community. He's been at the Magnus, the marina, the bayfront. Think of all the changes that have just happened in those times. The new winter sports park that is 30 years old now. You know, all the changes in the bayfront. I think about how the bayfront park looked in 1988. Been there for all of it, so that's, you know, pretty amazing. But you and Al were the first two full timers back in the day, so that's pretty amazing too. One of the most familiar faces around town, reffing, you know, doing mostly good work doing that, not making too many bad calls. Working around town, he's, you know, Parks and Rec, we do everything. We're everywhere all the time, so he's always around for that. 35 years of selfless devotion hasn't changed. As a worker, mentor, I would think about all the seasonal workers he's had in the past. I mean, that are now doctors, lawyers, policemen. Some have even chose to follow in his footsteps for some reason. A great coworker, great friend. I mean, almost a big brother to some. You know, we've seen his daughter grow up and have a son. So yes, he's a grandfather too, which is a little mind blowing. He's met, you know, when my wife and I met, when my son was born, he was not the first person in the room, but probably in the first 10. So that was, and now he's 20 and my daughter drove us here. So that's where that's at. But now he gets to have more time with his wife Cheryl, his daughter Nicole, his grandson, which is awesome. And, you know, so we love the guy. We wish him well. This isn't goodbye because he's still going to be around bugging everybody. But in all the things we've learned from him over the years, the best advice, the best thing he probably showed me is if you have Q-tips in your ears, don't try to play volleyball because it's going to end badly. So, congratulations, man.
Even in the municipality.
Well, I'd like to thank Mark. He actually started with the city about 3 or 4 months before I got here. And matter of fact, I had to bunk with him for the first 2 months because I couldn't find a place to live. My family was downstate. So we bunked above Tom and Dick's party store. Real classy place, but we survived it. So we've been together a long time. So I really appreciate, you're going to really appreciate retirement, Mark. You're going to enjoy it. So, okay.
The two legends in the house. Let him in and Hanson.
Never got a clock fixes.
You can blame me for that, Mark. That's fine. Just take a number. A few of our colleagues have reached out to me and they've asked if I could share some statements. They unfortunately couldn't be here. But David referenced kind of Mark's professional family tree. And these are two individuals who kind of got their direction, their life direction, professional life direction from Mark. So the first one is from Joe Ketchum. Joe is he's a Petoskey grad, grew up here. I believe his dad, Clark, was the first official Parks and Recreation director here back in the late 70s, if memory serves me right. So this is from Joe Ketchum. Congratulations, Mark. I just want to congratulate Mark Lenneman on his retirement after 35 years working for the city of Petoskey Parks and Recreation Department. I had the distinct pleasure of working with Mark when we first came to Petoskey, fresh out of Lake Superior State University. Mark has been a true asset to the Parks Department as he is dedicated, humble, friendly, behind the scenes, get the job done employee that all great teams need. Mark never wanted the limelight. And what I had to do to get him here is another story.
I don't know a person who can say a bad thing about Mark unless it was an unhappy fan with one of his calls refereeing. And Mark got his refereeing start by officiating our basketball here. And how many years have you been officiating? 36 years. Mark is the longest serving employee in the history of the Parks Department and deserves a wonderful recognition tonight. I want to personally thank Mark for mentoring me and the professional relationship we have maintained over the years. I mostly want to thank him for his friendship. Congratulations, Mark. You've earned it. Joe Ketchum, Executive Director, West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Department.
Joe might die a little bit, but he had to graduate from.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, all right. I won't go off script anymore than I do.
You're retired and went back.
So the next letter, it comes from Rebecca Reinbrandt, who again, born and raised in Petoskey. Her letter is, Dear Honorable Mayor Murphy, with Max Lenneman's retirement looming, honoring him as both a colleague, friend, and mentor is an important part of celebrating his work and accomplishments. Many will join in sharing their thoughts and congratulations honoring Mark for his service to the city of Petoskey as the longest serving employee in the Parks and Recreation Department. They will share how he has been a part of a team that revitalized the waterfront, including expanding the marina and creating Ed Wright Field. Others will wax on about his work with the maintenance team, helping inform the creative designs of the Bear River Valley Recreation Area and the construction of the community's expansive soccer facilities and first skate park. There will be much that people will look over the entire park and recreation system and see Mark's legacy represented. I, however, while joining with those hooting and hollering in celebration of his work, value Mark for how he made a difference in my life. You see, I met Mark during my senior year in high school when he graciously hired me as a dock attendant at the marina. I led to working at the Winter Sports Park, learning to make ice and drive a Zamboni under his watchful eye. Through a smiling demeanor, I learned that what it was like to lead a team, the importance of doing small things right the first time, and the responsibility to find each person's spark, putting the right hands and minds to the right job at hand. When expressing an interest to make Parks and Recreation my life's work, he set me on a path to Lake Superior State University. And from there, with a Parks and Recreation degree in hand, I've had the honor to serve in the profession for over 30 years. From the spark he lit in me one summer long ago, I traveled to become a Parks and Recreation director and serve as a director of community services and now the CEO of my own consulting firm. People in one's life come and go, as do staff of the city. However, there are individuals that are mainstays of the community and in our lives that have made such a difference that is incalculable and likely not truly understood until they pass the baton. Mark is such a person. We can all rest in gratitude knowing him well, that he has prepared the next generation of the Petoskey team to thrive. And I join you all in honoring Mark and celebrating his retirement. Sincerely, Rebecca Reinbrandt. All right. It's now my turn. Yeah, we will. So this is, believe it or not, to be 6 years here in March that I've been here. And I've done a lot of observing. And, Mark has set the bar high in this community for paying attention to details, for the maintenance practices, and just for the eye for the small things. And he's forgotten more about Parks and Rec than most people are ever going to know. And I recall, I think the first summer that I was here, we had a ball tournament out at Ed Wright. Where everyone's kind of doing their thing. We're taking care of the field. And I see Mark underneath the bleachers, digging garbage out, picking up cigarette butts, scraping gum off the concrete. And that was kind of my aha. Okay, this is who we are. Mark never told anybody to do that, but he led by example. A few years later, we have a seasonal employee who was under the bleachers picking up garbage. And we started to have a conversation and he said that I watched Mark do that as a full-time employee. And if Mark is going to do it, then I need to do it. And he's been with us ever since. So that's a story that, we don't cut grass. Okay, we manicure. Okay, we don't maintain parks. We don't maintain fields. We create an experience. And that's what makes us different than everybody else. And this is a guy who talked the talk and you walk the walk. So Mark, thanks for your leadership, your vision and your passion. It's going to carry over. What you see out here is going to be here for the next generation. And you play a major role in the success of Petoskey in the past, and you're going to play a major role in the success of Petoskey moving forward. Now, we're not losing Mark entirely. He's going to come back and work at the marina for us seasonally, which makes me happy because I don't have to worry about it. But Mark, thank you for everything. And we do have a plaque here that says, with great honor and recognition for 35 years of loyal and dedicated service, providing exceptional leadership to the City of Petoskey Parks and Recreation Department. You have exemplified the values of the department by leading with dedication, commitment to excellence, and the overall betterment of the community. Congratulations and best wishes.
It's you like what's called a legacy. There are a lot of people. Thank you very much for what you've done for Petoskey and for the future. You want me in there? No. I'll just get behind him.
John, you're not in it, but everyone else is. John, come this way.
Well,
Right. Ready?
Yo, Mark. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's really gonna throw off that over under, isn't it? It's really gonna throw off the over under, isn't it? Let's see what we can do here. The trouble is there's no Monday Night Football. I was getting new glasses when I was kid. Dropped in numbers considerably. You might want to follow, if you really want a better time than this, follow them. Next is the consent agenda, and it's the adoption of a approval of the following. January 9th, 2023 working session as well as the regular session, city council meeting minutes, as well as acknowledge the receipt of certain administrative transactions that have occurred since January 9, 2023, and I take it to city council for possible changes, corrections, or adoption. Okay, go.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion from Mr. Wagner, then we got a second from Mr. Shields, and now we have discussion. Yes.
I just have one question on the check register, page 3. About 2/3 of the way down. It's an item named Granicus, which is a contracted service for the city planner in the amount of $6,903. And I'm just curious what that might be. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you for the question. You may recall in the budget process, we allocated some funds to add a software program that will help us track short-term rentals. This software essentially provides an algorithm that will continually search for illegal short-term rentals on a continual basis. So we'll get reports frequently on this thing is scouring, all the different areas where these would be advertised for that opportunity, where we can do that as well, but they have much more reach and allow us to better track some of our illegal short-term rentals. And so that is a software package that I believe the city of Charlevoix is continuing to use them as well. So it's one package that is used kind of a lot in Michigan. So we're anxious to get started with it. We've already had kind of some training on it. So that will help us again track any illegal short-term rentals and keep us on task from that standpoint.
Thank you.
I talked to Zach, who was excited when I was walking down the hall, told me about it the other day and said how excited he was that this is going to help with enforcement.
Miss, do roll, please, Miss Beck.
Wagner.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore. Aye. Murphy.
Yes.
Now, some opportunity for public comment. If you have something you wish to speak to city council about at this time, raise your hand and step up to the mic, or if you're online, is there anybody or anything?
Yeah, there are you. But no hands up.
All right. There being none, we'll go to city manager's update, and for that, I'll turn it over to Shane Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be fairly brief today, with just some general comments. Meetings coming up. This week is a slower week for public meetings. The only meeting this week is our district library board that meets on Thursday at their regular time, 5 o'clock. We will have our city council planning commission combined meeting. That'll be next Monday, January 30th at 6 o'clock. And then one of the things I would like to try to accomplish today is our public safety director interviews. We're going to set up a public opportunity for folks to meet and kind of watch either in person or via Zoom. Our interview process this is such a front-facing position that I think having that opportunity for the public to engage with us is important. So one of the options I passed along was Monday, February 6th. Did realize that we did talk about a work session that particular night as well. A couple options are we could keep it that night. That is our regular meeting night. So we would start earlier, go in potentially 30-minute intervals on I would be presenting 4 applicants for your consideration at this time. We could start at 5 o'clock, finish up before our regular meeting time, and then transition into our regular meeting. Or we could set a date later, maybe that even later that week, that is just dedicated to those interviews. So there's not that maybe that rush that you feel to get into your regular meeting slot. So if we could have a little bit of discussion on maybe setting that up. I have not let our applicants know yet. I wanted to kind of have this discussion first, and then we'll respond accordingly. Mr. Moore.
My preference would be to go ahead with the work session on Monday and then have another time that week where we do the interviews, because I'd like the opportunity not to be confined to those 30-minute segments if need be. So that would just be my thinking.
Mr. Wagner?
I just checked on available evenings that week. So if we could get both done separately, I think that would be good.
Mr. Shields?
I am checking. Wednesday seems open, the 8th. And the 9th.
I can do the 7th, 8th, or 10th. I can't do the 9th. I'll be in Lansing.
So that's 8 and 10.
Yes. The 8th.
You can't do the nights, you said?
So 8 and 10 are available for, I thought Tina said no 7.
No on the 7th, someone
No.
said.
I said,
Or Derek
Derek.
said,
yeah, the 7th does not work for me.
Okay.
right, so 8 and 10.
I'll work out with whatever works. So is that the 8th works out?
9th can't work.
Does the 8th work?
I think Tina
When?
said no on the 9th, right?
Right,
Yeah.
but the 8th, Wednesday.
So right now I'm hearing Wednesday, the 8th and Friday, the 10th are available for all 3 of you that have spoken.
I prefer Wednesday.
We wouldn't do
than
Friday evening.
Wednesday, huh?
We wouldn't do Friday evening unless you do it during the day, which
Let's
is
do Wednesday. Is that good?
Yeah.
Is that good for you?
Mhm.
There it is. What time?
Can we do 5:30?
5:30.
Or is that too early?
That works.
Okay. Move it from there to there.
5:30.
It's likely how I would like to do this is have the applicants come through City Hall and meet internally with department heads. We'll have kind of our own meet and greet and interview. And then obviously your session will be public and open, but I would like to get department heads engaged in the process as well.
But you're not asking us to develop questions or anything?
No, we'll get that to
You're
you.
going to do that?
Yep.
Yes, good. All right. You guys good with that?
5:30 on the 8th.
Miss Moore?
I'm just assuming that depending on the outcome of our last item on the agenda today, that the time of that work session on the 6th might have to be shifted to, because if indeed that last item passes and we begin meetings at 6 o'clock, the work session is scheduled for 5:30. So just point of reference.
Okay, we can, a couple more things to hit on. Just real quick, lofts at Lumber Square, we will be coming back to council. As you know, we approved the brownfield plan. Emmett County Commission approved the brownfield plan. The next step would be the development and reimbursement agreement. So that'll come back to you. We're gonna shoot for February 6th meeting. So we're working through that now, so you can think about that. Michigan Maple Block, we are continuing to work with the developer here. We met with Eagle on Thursday or Friday last week to talk about a brownfield grant. As you know, just the demolition for that project and abatement is going to be slightly over $1 million is the estimate. So the developer obviously is seeking state support through a grant through Eagle. So we would essentially be the applicant in that. So myself and staff will be working through that, working with Eagle to get that submitted. We're going to be talking about Emmett Street in a few moments. I won't talk on that. And then staff as well has been working with the ownership of City Park Grill on a rental rehab application. This is, as I mentioned before, a pretty significant lift for staff. There's a lot of boxes to check, a lot of things to get in order. Between Zach and myself and Andrea at Housing North, we are kind of dividing and conquering, and we will essentially our letter of intent expires the end of March. So we have a lot of things to accomplish to get to that deadline. But you'll be seeing a lot of things roll forward for that project as well for approval standpoint. One of the things I wanted to highlight, this is kind of very difficult to see, but we are live, or our videos are live streaming on YouTube as well now. We're able to also upload videos to that. We've got a channel there. So if you go to our YouTube channel, and we obviously encourage folks to do that, you'll be able to see meetings really starting from 2023. We will be adding, as time allows us to, going backwards into, we have all of 22's meeting video that we will upload, again, as our schedules allow us to do that. So we'll be adding video of past meetings to our YouTube platform as well. So we're happy to provide that citizen engagement opportunity. So if residents go to our regular agenda and minutes page of our website, they'll see a video link. They could click the video link and it'll take them to our YouTube channel where they can click on any video that they would like to see going forward. So that's a nice addition. Certainly appreciate Sarah's work on that. She was instrumental in getting that channel set up and getting videos uploaded, and will be instrumental as we go backward in putting videos from past meetings in that platform. A few community news updates. You may have seen Sunrise Rotary's 4th of July Planning Committee survey that's been distributed around the community, really trying to get feedback on what the community would like to see going forward with the 4th of July activities. So we encourage residents to click on the link, survey link, provide their input. It's a very simple, easy survey, but it's going to be instrumental as this group plans the 4th of July festivities going forward. That survey is available until the end of this month, so July 31st. Also coming up the first week of February is the Petoskey Chamber's annual State of the Community event. This will be at the Crooked Tree Arts Center. This will be Friday, February 3rd. The program, or there's a meet and greet time at 1 o'clock, and then the program starts at 2 o'clock. So we encourage folks to tune in. I know this will be something that they'll stream and have video available for folks to watch as well after the event, but certainly appreciate that opportunity. Also this is a little ways out yet, but coming up February 17th through the 20th is our downtown winter, I can't read that, it's too far away, Winter Wonderland weekend. So just putting that plug out there. We'll continue to promote this going forward. There's a wide range of activities being planned and certainly want to bring attention to that and get people out and support our wonderful downtown. Questions for me?
Ms. Demore.
Just a quick one. Where do we find the link for the survey regarding the 4th of July?
I actually posted it on our city website today.
Okay.
Yep, so it's on our homepage under news and headlines, and I also shared it to the city, official city Facebook page, so. That was today.
That was my question. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're on. Is here. Next is appointments. That's consideration of appointments to the Board of Review. What's the matter? Sir.
It's me. I didn't number them. It's my.
Next is first is Joel Rooster. He's an attorney in Petoskey. He has served on the board. I liked how he has summarized himself, his involvement in the past. He's familiar with the tax assessments, the appeal process, and the relevant concepts such as assessments and taxable value. He's willing to serve with courtesy and fairness to those who bring the matters before the board, before the city of Petoskey. I think it's really, he's a true participant in this with the city. It's hard to find people on this board. He's done a great job and he's willing to continue. So I bring to you Joel Rooster's name.
Make a motion to approve Mr. Wooster.
Support.
I have a motion from Ms. Demore, a second from Mr. Shields. Roll, please.
Shields,
Yes.
Demore,
Aye.
Wagner.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Next, I bring to you David Schuman. He's a realtor. He has experience with the understanding of values of the properties within the city limits. He's lived here for 18 years, though he grew up here. He served, this is another nice thing about it, is along with Joel, he also serves on boards such as the Man of Food Project, Top of the Michigan Trails, and he's certainly office of the vice president. He held that for Man of Board. I'm bringing his name to you for being service on the Board of Review. Mr. Wagner.
I'll motion to approve David Schumer.
Second the motion.
Mr. Shields, motion from Mr. Wagner, second from Mr. Shields. Roll call, please, Ms. Beck.
Wagner,
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore. Aye. Murphy.
Yes. Next, this is Christine Gephardt. She is lived in Petoskey for 17 years. She was the CEO of Northern Country Community Mental Health, as well as she says a homeowner. She was also, I know, on the board of the library, was actually president of the library board. And she currently is serving as an election worker in the November election. Sarah gave a good accolades for that as well. So I bring to you Christine.
So moved.
Second from Mr. Wagner. Ms.
Good.
Beck.
Demore.
Aye.
Wagner.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. We have not had a full board, which is also, one of them is the alternate. We have not had a full board and it's very hard to fill this board. I'm very confident that we didn't just settle for a warm body. These are good people. So thank you to them. Next is new business, an introduction and discussion and possible adoption of a proposed resolution to set a public hearing regarding the potential establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation act district, OPRA, for 424 Emmett Street. And I turn it over to City Manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. We talked through this back in, I believe it was on November initially where the presentation was was provided by the group. Wanted to bring this back to you essentially tonight for consideration is essentially two things. We need to set a resolution or a proposed resolution to set a public hearing for two things: to set the district, which is 424 Emmett Street, and then apply for certificate application again for 424 Emmett Street. So we have talked about this. We had a presentation done. The ownership group is here. Mr. Silva, Tom Johnson is here, and Mike, the architect, are here to answer any questions, provide any additional feedback. So as we all know, and just rewinding, if you will, from a memory standpoint, this is a property that has been vacant for over the past 20 years. As we look at kind of one of the most frequent areas where we get calls on, this is probably in the top 5, if you will, from a code enforcement standpoint. It's certainly a property that we would love to see get rehabilitated, being that it is essentially been gutted down to studs in many cases. We have had our current assessor. I met him on site. He walked through it, or we walked through it. He has provided the documentation necessary to essentially call this a I don't even remember what well, it's that, but it's I don't know the official name. Tom, do you remember what the functionally obsolete? That's the phrase I was looking for. So that was he didn't have to spend much time going through it to really classify that as such, but that is one of the steps that's required to move the application forward to the state. So just as a reminder, again, we would continue to receive our current taxes. All the taxing entities would also get their current tax, which when you look at the memo, it's not significant dollars, but our current local taxes is about almost $1,500. But when we're all said and done, that goes up to over 16,000. You know, once we're through the abatement period. So there's significant potential taxing opportunities. You know, once we get through this, as we all know, properties like this need a lot of support and consideration. You know, if you're a businessman or a woman and you look at this property, it may not make a lot of financial sense to dive into these, and it certainly doesn't without incentives or both at the state and local level. So I know this is a project that a lot of folks want to see considered and brought back to life, if you will. So this is in front of you to essentially set the public hearing. Our public hearing, I would recommend, I left that kind of open. My recommendation would be not to proceed to the next available date, which would be February 6th. Let's give us as staff enough time to get our letters out, and then the taxing entities enough time to respond accordingly. So my recommendation would be to make this public hearing for February 20th. That would again give us as staff enough time to get notices out. It would give taxing jurisdictions enough time to provide any feedback. Obviously, public input is important as well. So it'd be my recommendation to skip the 6th meeting and give us that extra time, give the public that extra time, which would be the February 20th date. Obviously, the team is here for questions. You know, feel free to ask.
The total city over the 12 years, the taxes would amount to roughly, if it was 16,000 a year. Does that start immediately, or does that 12 years start when the project is completed?
I don't follow your question, I guess.
It says 12 years. When do the 12 years start? Do they start now or do they start when the project is complete?
When the building is, the renovations have been completed, so you're asking.
Yeah. Right, okay. And
We have the value now.
Right.
The assessor will set a value. And that's a little bit of a difficult thing to ask, but he'll set a value for, obviously, Mike and his group have drawings that they're working through. Our assessor will put some value, some taxable value on that. So we'll kind of have a number there as well as part of the application.
right, but it comes to about roughly they're figuring about $16,659 per year thereafter. Okay.
Yep.
So it comes to $200,000 of taxes that will be
Correct.
collected
Yep.
rather than the city collecting. Mr. Moore.
So I don't really know to whom to direct this question. Maybe Shane, I'll start with you. So basically it says that the recommendation by MEDC is to have a minimum match of approximately 10%. If my calculations are correct here, this match is about 25%. So maybe you could just speak to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That is a minimum match. I think with projects like this that are really extremely blighted, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. I think as you look at the pro forma and work through, what makes sense from a rate of return on that investment, I think this project does ratchet up to more of a potential abatement consideration. I know that's something that Paul and Tom and the group talked through where that was at. Anytime a developer goes out for a project and seeks a loan, there's a debt ratio that they're working with that as a lender, you have to have a certain ratio, and usually that's 1.2, 1.3. And I will say with the 12 years, we're close to that ratio. I think as we get less than that, that becomes a little more challenging to get that debt ratio covered appropriately. Ultimately, that is up to this body where you want to land on that. Certainly the developer and the group can talk through that as well, but this is such a challenging site. Requires a lot of this is potentially a 1.8-ish million renovation. You're again, like as the mayor said, almost potentially $200,000 of abatement would be included in that. So ultimately, it's up to this body where you want to land on it, but they are asking for the maximum, which is the 12-year abatement consideration.
Mr. Moore.
I just don't know if you'd like to speak to my question. Yeah.
I've run the numbers so many times.
Hit your microphone, Tom. So
Sorry.
yeah, but there you go.
I do financial consulting for a living. I also, for the last 20 years, have volunteered for the U.S. Small Business Administration. I probably approved about $1 billion worth of real estate loans. Just do as a volunteer. This is what I do for my living. But so one of the things that Shane was bringing up, this is a very tight project. And so initially I ran a pro forma to show what would happen if this just got a 5-year abatement. Keep it easy. And when you do that, it certainly meets the MEDC guidelines. But then what happens in year 6, because taxes are your largest operating expense next to debt service. And debt service right now is very high because interest rates went up, number one. Number two, from like 3 to 7% in less than a year. Then number two, the cost of construction went up as well. So that means the total debt amount that this cost to build goes up. So total debt goes up. On top of that, the cost of that debt and the interest rate goes up as well. So then the next expense, and we can't control that. The next expense below that is taxes, and then you have utilities, et cetera. And so when you run this for 5 years, in year 6, that debt coverage drops to 1.8 0.01 to 1. And what that means is you're just a few dollars above a break even. So if we take that to a bank, the bank will say, we can't lend money on this based on federal and bank lending mandates. They want to see a 1.2 to 1. So if I carry that out, it doesn't start really picking up the cash flow until year 13. And so you also have a project where it gets above 1.20 to 1, if you will. So it doesn't do that to year 13, 14, and that's why we requested the full amount. If you have a project that is smaller units overall, there is not dedicated parking, which I love the new trend that more people are willing to walk, but not all people are. I love the fact that new housing is coming online, that you have the loss at Lumber Square, I think that we're presenting the day we were here, and some other ones that you hear about and read about. That's exciting. But also, when you look at vacancy rates, that when you have a unit without dedicated parking, it makes it more difficult. So if he's off just a little bit on the vacancy, if the economy slows down or something, he'll probably get hit first. And that means he goes a little bit into the red. And the bank can handle it. I think Paul wouldn't be here if we can handle it, but there's a lot of risk in that. And that's why we ask respectfully for the 12, otherwise we wouldn't have. It doesn't cash flow out, and you're mortgaging this over a 20-year period. So you want to show you're up above that 1.2 level for that 20-year period. And I call that being in the red because a little red band shows up when you drop below 1.2 in the pro forma. So it's not at a loss in the red, but it's very close to it in some years. So that's the reason behind it.
I appreciate your detailed response. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do too. Try to keep me out of trouble.
Anybody else? Mr. Wagner.
A couple of comments. I appreciate that as well. And Shane, all of your comments and the detail. A couple of things that have been on my mind in this regard. The last time you were in, we were talking about sunset clauses. And I know we're not to that point. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately. It's almost, I call it an elephant in the room. We've got developers in the past, since I've been on board 2020, where we've been pro-development and we've approved a lot of things and ground hasn't broken. So there's people saying, how much can we put up with this? But that was 2020. It was during the pandemic, and supply chain issues have happened. Costs have gone through the roof. There's labor issues. And I see you taking a risk through all of that because it really hasn't improved much. I just got back from Scottsdale where there's thousands of units being built. I think every material and every laborer is there. If I can tell, it's a little bit crazy. So we've all been concerned about things not getting started after we approve them. But I think I want you to know I'm all for this project and improving a blighted area and turning it into something beautiful. I'd love the visuals of what it used to be and where you see it going.
Mr. Shields. Yeah, I wanted to share that I feel this is a very win-win and exciting project. And I can't predict the future, but it's hard to see us getting the tax value that we're losing or that we're not getting. In 12 years, I think there's been a couple of decades that's been sitting at this low tax value. So I see it as a win for that fact alone that this is making something happen that's not happening currently. So that's where I feel, and I'd be happy to make a motion. Okay, for that, Mayor.
So a motion from Mr. Shields.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion for the February 20th to schedule a public hearing.
Yep.
Support.
Mr. Wagner does the second. Any other discussion?
Yes. Does this have good question? Does this have both items or just the first one?
Just the first one.
Okay.
So while I fully intend to support this project, I do want to put on the record that I'm concerned that we continue to move forward without a policy in place to assess how incentive options should be awarded. I believe that such a policy protects the city by establishing criteria or guidelines as a reference for city council, city staff, developers, and the public. It provides transparency. It assists city council and staff to assess, compare, and contrast each project brought forward. I believe that the absence of an incentive policy constrains rather than expands city council discretion relative to any given project moving forward. Having said that, given the history of this particular project, I support it because I anticipate at this point hypothetically that it would certainly qualify under many of the factors likely to be included in such a policy. Having said that, I really hope that we move forward for this because it's going to get more and more difficult for me personally to move forward with other projects if we don't have those guidelines in place. And I certainly want to give you an opportunity to respond.
No, I certainly appreciate that. It is something that we're working with NLEA. Anyone else that's interested to formulate this policy. I just want to make sure it's a policy that gives this body the latitude to look outside the box. I don't want to constrain this body. If we have a once in a lifetime project come forward, but it doesn't quite check the box of whatever our policy says, I certainly want to give this body the latitude to move outside of that. But I certainly understand the request, and certainly that's something that we'll be working on going forward.
I have some ideas if
Yeah,
I'd be more than willing to suggest. Thank you.
Manager Horn, on this note too, there is the draft that we saw a couple of years ago. This is before your time that Ms. Tweeten put out. Is that a work from that or get that out of instead?
The feedback I received was just let's get a fresh look at it, and I don't want to make this a document where you have to do very difficult math or anything that requires a lot of I mean, not that math is necessarily a bad thing, but I don't want to make this simple, but yet comprehensive. So there's a balance here, and I think getting your input, and this could be as we talk about policy at a work session, I think this could probably take up a whole work session just on this one policy guidance document. So I'm looking forward to your input.
I think it'd be good to have a discussion on it. Everybody comes forward with the biggest piece of the pie they can get, which is what I would do if I was a developer coming to a board. And I think it's important for us to realize we're always the 100. Are people asking for 100 or 110%? Thinking they'll get less. I think it's good to at least look at a policy or look at a process. I think that would be a better thing to call it. So we have a motion, we have a second. Roll, please.
Shields.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 4-0 to place it on the public hearing. Next is the introduction and discussion possible adoption of a proposed resolution to set a public hearing regarding potential approval of the obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate certification application for 424 Emmett Street. I turn that over to City Manager Horn.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, this is kind of a two-step process. The public hearing on February 20th will be essentially two public hearings, one to set the district and one to approve the exemption certificate application. So there'll be two distinct public hearings, two distinct resolutions going forward that will be submitted along with the application. So obviously same project, but there's a detailed process that's included with the Oprah process. So this one sets us or allows us to set the public hearing to actually approve the certification application.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Moore, I have a second from Mr. Wagner. Other discussion? I go to Ms. Beck for roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Wagner.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. Now we're going to. Thank you. Thank you for attending. We'll see you in about a month.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Carry on.
you. Thank you very much.
Next, adoption of proposed resolution approving of a records management policy and records retention and disposal schedules. And for that, I'll turn it over to City Manager Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. So the bulk of your packet tonight is a lot of schedules, a lot of there'll be a quiz on this after the meeting, so.
Open book.
Yeah, that's right. As Sarah and I have, this came up kind of as we were looking at ballots actually in the election process. We have a records room downstairs that is full of records that we've retained over the course of time. These schedules are something that we've had in the past. The schedules themselves may have been updated since the last time, but what we could not find in our records, and it may be out there and we don't go back far enough, but we could not find an actual policy that was adopted at the city council level. So with the guidance of the Michigan Municipal League, we have drafted a policy that goes with the schedules, and these schedules are directly from the state of Michigan. So as you look at what other communities do, this is really what other communities do from a record retention standpoint. They follow the state schedules. So as I talked with Council Member Demore this afternoon, she had mentioned how detailed this is and how the consistency is there doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason for documents and how long they're maintained, if you will. It will be on the department heads. It will be their responsibilities to maintain records for their respective areas. Obviously, Sarah, as our city clerk, is the custodian of city records. I will say our response has been, let's just keep storing records, and we're at the point where we really can't continue to store records that we really no longer need to store. So there's a process involved, whether if it's information that needs to be protected. Obviously, there's a process that we follow to shred those documents if we can. Recycle the documents. If there's nothing sensitive about them, we can certainly do that. But obviously, we want to make sure that we're following the proper guidance. The proper number of years that we maintain records needs to be followed. So from our standpoint, from staff standpoint, this gives us good guidance on how we respond to record retention going forward. And as we kick off into a new year, potentially, that's a great time to look back and say, okay, let's look at our records. Let's look at the records that we have. What can we get rid of? What can we dispose of appropriately? And so we don't have these situations where we have rooms that are busting at the seams with no more. And you could say they're potential fire hazards just with all the documents that are down there. So we want to make sure that we're maintaining records, and certainly we want to make sure that records are available and remain available for the appropriate time period that they need to be. So obviously Sarah can chime in. She's put a lot of effort into this document as well. And as our city clerk, it will ultimately, carry that forward. So if you have questions, we can certainly.
If somebody has a zoning appeals board, the minutes, is it? At what point does it just go away? It's on page 24. I'm just wanting a little better understanding of it.
Chapter.
Page 24
No.
on the bottom. I just thought you explained the process a little bit.
Yeah, so I think from a planning department standpoint, so when Zach looks at his documents
Okay.
that are derived from the planning department, when you look at minutes, when you look at appeals,
They don't even have them.
Doesn't have. a year.
Retention.
So
So what happens if somebody wants to, don't we ever want to go back and pull up the minutes of those at some point for somebody appeal or something, or? are
Well, the
they-
minutes, you. Like the right below is zoning board minutes, which if
Yeah.
there's appeal, it would be in those minutes. Same as zoning appeal board minutes,
Which is
so
current plus 1 year, no.
zoning board. If a permanent copy is filed in the city clerk's office, current plus 1 year, if no permanent copy is filed, then it's permanent. You can send it to the archives.
So I don't understand, teach me.
well,
So-
we're learning as well.
I mean, what happens if somebody, it's nice sometimes that, you guys have included the minutes on some of these things of saying, well, this issue was discussed 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and here was the minutes to that. Are some of these minutes gonna be gone then?
We will always maintain, obviously, electronic minutes. These are hard copies.
But you're gonna, but all these are disc or,
Well, that's the
That-
problem.
yeah.
Everything technology changes, so like Laserfish and big money to scan all of these things.
plus a person
So-
to do it.
And eventually, we will have to do this because this is storage, even if there was a fire or
Yeah.
a flood, I mean, we have nothing, we have backed up on our servers. But it's not everything that goes back, like those book
Uh-huh,
minutes that
uh-huh.
you signed,
Yeah.
like those aren't scanned, signed anywhere, like I have the physical.
Are those signed
Minutes.
then or are those disposed of?
No, they're saved,
Okay.
but just for example, the county, Emmett County just bought the software and hardware to start scanning everything at the county just like a year ago. And it was a lot of money for all of their records,
And the machine to do that?
correct? And
Scanner.
Susie,
Will they lease this machine for a short period?
I don't know.
There are other consultants, contractors that will bring equipment in and
Mhm.
start scanning
Okay.
documents.
Did you find it, Tina? Is there a different schedule?
If you look on page 4, that the little bit I looked at this today, and it is overwhelming. It basically, if there's not something specific, you look first in the general records. So on page 4, you see there on the left side, administrative records, minutes of council boards, commissions, committees, and other official groups must be retained for a minimum retention period of permanent.
Okay,
So I think if you go to places like that are general overviews, then you can either reference the specific section or
General
defaulting that as the general, but there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is.
I started looking at this and I'm going, this is overwhelming.
Tell me about it.
And yeah, oh my God. Yes,
Well, that was one thing I wanted to say after looking at this. With due respect, in a public meeting, to say something's a hot mess is probably not appropriate. But these are so many overlapping specific requirements that the one thing I thought, and I don't even know if this is necessary, but if there's some kind of program or something to assist with keeping track
Mhm.
of all those deadlines, because there's no categories or rhyme or reason to it. I'm only speaking for myself, that would be something I would certainly support if it assisted to keep track of all this. So
I will mention that Matt Cross has reviewed the schedules. He's actually the one that provided us the updated schedules that are in here. So this has been reviewed by our legal team. Just to put you a little bit at ease.
Well, yeah, I applaud you for wrapping your head on this. This is, this is important things. Can be overwhelming and you want to step in the closet sometimes literally, but I was looking through it and I noticed it referenced a lot so you're utilizing what the state recommends and their office MTBD or that department. They're trying to keep on top of the technology, how to handle storage electronically. So I think that's wise to follow recommendations and keep in touch with those changing protocols and then doing the best we can.
Yeah, and just as a point of clarification, I'm not saying what we're doing is a hot mess. I'm saying that try to apply this, is extremely challenging. And if there's a way to be supportive from an electronic standpoint or something, if that's helpful, because these are all required by statute. So thank you.
Unfortunately, sometimes, and we found this with the rental rehab legislation, is I think some of this legislation is designed for bigger communities that have layers of people to do some of these tasks. When you're a smaller work area and what you have is the person looking in the mirror back at you, that's who you are. There's no layers here. So it requires, it's a heavy lift. This is a heavy lift, but we've got some pretty intelligent people that can work through this.
We'll support though if you come up with a
Software tracking mechanism.
Okay,
I think.
I'll remember that.
I think we need to continue to move. You can't, if you stand still, you're not gonna keep up with anything. I think it's important to move it forward. If you come up with what Shane and Sarah, you feel is appropriate. I see 3-4 people shaking their heads. Yes, let's look at this. So,
Okay.
great. So do I have a motion to adopt the proposed resolution?
so moved with gratitude for this becoming a policy.
Okay, do I have a second from Mr. Wagner? Support. Anybody else wish to discuss this? There being none, I take the roll.
Demore,
Aye.
Wagner,
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Last on the agenda at 8:15 is the adoption of a proposed resolution that would approve city council time start change from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. I talked to Shane about this. I was probably one of the bigger proponents of this. I attend all of the planning commission meetings. They start at 6 now. I am a member of the downtown management board and they now start at 6. I think the Parks and Rec, I believe, are too.
Yes.
So I think, to stay consistent. Consistency to me is one of the most important things. I also think it's a respect to staff. We get done at 5:30 to wait an hour and a half for them to start a meeting when we have so many meetings going on. It's more of the consistency. I was at 7 o'clock and I was the one, I think, 6, 7, 8 years ago that complained and said we have 7:30, 5, 6:30. We had half-hour meetings. It was a goofy thing. And I said, we need to get something uniform so that all public know our public meetings are consistently starting on the same time. And so that was my push, was to get rid of a 7:30. I think we had at one point as well. So I understand the difficulties of showing up if you are working and have late hours. So I'm bringing this for discussion. If it's not supported, I'm fine with that, staying at 7. But I thought it was important for us to just discuss now that I've been to 3 other meetings that all start at 6. Mr. Moore.
So my concern, first of all, very respectful of staff's time, but I'm also very interested in getting as many people as possible to attend our meetings. And I don't really know the answer to this question. I think about folks with young families getting home from school, having time for dinner before they could come. That's my thinking, but I don't know. So I'm interested to hear what.
I think it's also early enough to get out of here to enjoy a little time with them in the evening or to put them to bed. To me, feeding was important, but to me, putting them in bed was but that's me, and that's from years ago. So, Mr. Shields, you have some.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not as ideal. I would, if I was to choose between 2, I would choose 7. But that's just maybe a selfish preference. I could do either. The 7 o'clock just works well for getting home. I work out of 5, get home, have dinner. helping the kids a little bit before I take off, but, again, it's just a preference there. I could do either. I am concerned. It's interesting if you think about how to get more people here. Is 6 or 7 make a difference? If we could know that, it'd be neat.
I know.
But the other aspect was the work sessions and fitting those in. Starting work sessions at 5 would be really hard for me.
So that could be addressed by picking another day that we would, once a month, that we would have a meeting, or maybe we have a 5 to 8 or a 6 till 8 or 8 meeting or something like that, and cover it on a different day where we are fresher than jumping into city council meeting following not heated discussion, but thoughtful discussion. I don't know.
You've all heard me say before, I've got the ultimate flexibility in my job. So we could meet at 3 PM and I'd be totally content. So really my interest is more for others on council as well as for staff, and for getting out earlier, because we've had, in my 3 years, we've had a lot of 10:30, 11 o'clock meetings where we got out, and nobody wants to sit through those.
Which I mean, getting out at 8:30 instead of 9:30.
Yeah.
And I think of the summer days when it's beautiful outside and we watch the sunset go down here, we could be outside enjoying it. But again. Shane, do you have anything you wish to add?
I mean, again, selfishly, I think having something earlier, certainly would be helpful for staff. Even if we want to compromise and split it, that's helpful.
I think at a half hour start and.
Mary, you talked with Ms. Walker. Is this, if this house works for her?
I do not know.
And this could be something that,
Let's talk on.
we don't have to have an answer tonight. We've talked about a work session on the 6th that is going to conflict anyway. So maybe this is something you could even do something seasonally. I don't know, maybe you don't want to set 2 different expectations because people get used to something, but
I don't think
you could have an earlier time in the summer, like the mayor said, or I will say, as I've done a little bit of research, 6 seems to be that sweet spot that a lot of communities have. Charlevoix is at 6. I think Harbor still is at 7. Boyne City,
Earlier, I think.
they are a little different in that the second Tuesday of the month is at 7, but the 4th Tuesday of the month is at noon. So I would propose noon.
Work sessions for 7 hours.
But that's a terrible, the county did that, and I did not think that was fair to the public when the major discussion and decision making was at noon on a Tuesday with the meeting following it a couple hours later.
They're like the planning commission in Boyne City's 5:30, ZBA's 5 o'clock. So they have a lot of earlier meetings as well, but as in my city manager listserv, it seemed to be like 6 was that sweet spot that a lot of communities settled on as kind of that compromise between early and late, if you will.
Can we think about it?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. Maybe we can just think about it for 2 weeks, and I might throw questions out to some more to residents and see.
But you see how many people show up at 7. Maybe we'll have more if we do it at 6 because they don't quite get settled in, and
That's possible.
and don't want to leave after that.
Maybe.
I always felt the value of being able to have, because up here, the evenings in the summertime, spring and fall was so nice that I always valued that time of being able to get out of here, but let's talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
let's see, city council comments, and since Ms. Walker is not here, we'll go to Mr. Wagner in number 3.
No comments, Mayor.
Number 2, Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mayor. I just, in light of the pedestrian vehicle accident on this earlier this week, and our last conversation about the Regional Transportation Authority and the action plan, it made me think that transportation is, we kind of think about the bus transportation and vehicles, but people in our community also walk and bike, and that's just an important part of our transportation. And so I look forward to, in our next discussion of the action plan, just to bring that idea up as a question of keeping that on the forefront of how we can serve those who walk and bike in our community, and a focus on safety. I know there's some, I've heard from people in the community wanting to get together and talk about how we can create safer crosswalks and those type of opportunities. So I think that's great, and I support that, and look forward to hearing and learning more.
Mr. Moore.
Just following up quickly on the action plan too, since Derek brought it up at the close of the last meeting, sort of after the meeting was over. Shane mentioned we really didn't talk about enhancing communication in the action plan. And I think that's probably something that we should be thinking about as well, since that's a big factor that is kind of woven itself through many of these topics. Just want to mention that I did get an opportunity to go to the library exhibit. Like everyone else, I found it very moving, very impressive, and kudos to the entire team at the library for being one of 2 libraries in Michigan to bring that here. That's pretty incredible. I was out of town last week, so I attended the Planning Commission meeting by Zoom, and it has encouraged me to mention, since it was a 3.5-hour meeting, I know some of you were all there, to extend a thank you to all board members, commission members for their time, preparation, efforts, and seriousness of purpose that they bring to that endeavor. It really is appreciated. And along the lines of citizen engagement, thank you, Sarah, for this new tool, which looks like a really good addition to outreach. And so I'm going to be sure to reach out to the people in Ward 1 to provide them the link and tell them it's a work in progress.
It is. I don't know YouTube that well, nor do I do it personally. So, all right.
Thank you.
And I guess hitting on what Jake brought up this morning for quite a bit of time, City Manager Horn, interim Public Safety Director Rocky.
Carr.
I'm sorry, Rocky Carr. Mike Robbins, Public Works, and myself sat down and came up with a approach where we feel we are going to request, Mike's already looking into it, somebody to come and do an assessment on all of the school crosswalk areas to get a better handle on numbers and possible addressing ways to address if we find that there are issues. So we are actively moving forward on this. I always say that we do stuff slowly because we get it right. And this may be a little slow for some people, but we are really going to work on getting this right so that where there is a need, we will address it.
Will it be in collaboration with the school district at all, or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
And there will be the standards have changed from a reflectivity of, you may have noticed some of that as you've driven around. The signs themselves are a little brighter. So we're looking at kind of enhancing or updating all of our signs, including adding school zone signs as needed in certain areas. So there was some discussion about that not being approved in that area in the past. I don't know that history, but certainly if we are in a school zone and it requires signage, we will be putting signage up, and it'll have the high reflectivity. That particular morning was as is most mornings these days, dark. It was a drizzly day, it was a foggy day. No excuses, but the driver did get cited in that incident. We're just really fortunate and certainly thank the Lord that there was no serious injuries in that situation.
And we take this real serious. His staff right away came together to say, what's the first step? And the first step, of course, is assessment to see where you're at before you do a knee-jerk reaction, spend money, do the wrong thing. Let's do the right thing let's get an assessment first on this process. Mr. Wagner.
What about, I know there was some request for crossing guards and, maybe that's something the school is looking at. I don't know.
That's part of this. That's part of this is to see what is needed. What is not, how can you address it? Do you address it through signals, signs? Do you address it with human bodies? We have staff does not have a clue, nor do I or anybody really, of what you have until you look at and get a real look at what's happening.
Yeah, I think initially there was a discussion about trying to get volunteers to help, and that's still something on a short-term basis we could consider. We just want to make sure we're not putting anyone out there that jeopardizes their own safety or the safety of the pedestrian traffic. So getting folks trained up. Obviously, by statute, it is our responsibility as the local municipality to provide that if the school makes that request. We find a need there, that is on us to fund that. We do have one crossing guard, and if this traffic safety study comes back that there's more, we want to just make this a comprehensive look, not just one specific area. We want to look at all of our school zones and make sure that we're addressing them consistently and appropriately.
That's being very progressive, I believe.
Yeah.
It's so we'll move forward. I know there's people in the community who have contacted each of you. They've contacted me, they've contacted Shane, they've contacted the public safety director. So I guess you can tell everybody and anybody where we're at with this and where we're headed, and there will be more information coming in the future.
One,
Go ahead. That's what I was going to call attention to.
yeah,
Great tribute tonight, amazing forward momentum on many fronts. Thank you all for your service to our wonderful community. It is greatly appreciated. And that came from Nikki Devitt, Chamber Director.
Thank you to Nikki too.
Can I withdraw my no comment and green comment? Because that's what I was thinking in that tribute, Mr. Letterman. What I thought of and then forgot about was while I was in Arizona for 11 days, when people asked about city council in Petoskey, I said, well, it's getting to be a little inconvenience. I'd like to travel more. And I got to travel between the Mondays. And I say it totally jokingly. But in listening to that tribute and those comments about this town and how amazing it is, I couldn't be prouder to serve here. And I also shared that. I was tearing up over here. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah.
But
And I will say this has been a really neat opportunity for me to work in a community that is really, tourism is such a driver of our economy here. And it's great and it's wonderful and it's neat to see all the activity downtown, even these weekends currently, and just hear the folks milling around. But I will say from a staff standpoint, it puts us, we have to have our best foot forward all the time to make sure our community is kept up. Because if you're spending your hard-earned dollars in our community, we want that to be a great experience for you. Which is a little bit of added stress in that, again, we have to put Petoskey and show that Petoskey has a very high standard because we want people to come back and spend their hard-earned dollars in our community. And that's kudos to our staff for always taking that very personal, taking it on and really taking it to the next level. And Petoskey has a very high standard of excellence, and that's been for a number of years, you know, going back to when Mark was first starting out. So, and then beyond. So I'm thankful to work with such a high performing team.
And we as citizens, thank you guys too, because it's not just the tourists that we're concerned about, but you guys also take great care as a staff on all of the facilities that are utilized by the people every day, whether it be walking the river, whether it be running your dog up at Lockwood Park or at the waterfront fishing. You guys have made this helped. The staff, along with Mark, has made this a real possibility for not just the tourists, but for us and our families, which is so admirable. So thank you for what you guys do. There being no further business,